The stars above Vega Prime still burned bright, but the silence was deafening. Where only hours ago the largest coalition armada in galactic history had clashed with the Terran Defense Fleet, now there was only drifting debris, ruptured warhulks, and the eerie afterglow of plasma discharges. Admiral Kale Voran stood on the command dais of the Imperium flagship, Zevrik, his four-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back. The victory report hovered in shimmering glyphs before him: Terran fleet destroyed, resistance broken, Earth isolated. It was supposed to feel triumphant. Instead, Kale felt uneasy. The battle had been brutal, yes, but almost too easy. The humans had fought with the ferocity the Imperium had predicted, their small, rugged warships darting between capital vessels like hornets. But when the final Terran cruiser was speared through and silenced, Kale couldn't shake the sense that something was missing. Admiral, his second-in-command, Commander Vreth, said, bowing slightly. "The War Council awaits confirmation. Shall I transmit the declaration of victory?" Kale's golden eyes swept over the viewscreen one last time, scanning the graveyard of human steel. He nodded. "Transmit it. Let the galaxy know the Terran rebellion is finished." Vreth obeyed, sending the signal that would ripple across dozens of worlds. The Imperium had triumphed over Earth. Far across the void, aboard the battered TDF carrier Resolute, Captain Sarah Whitlock stared at her cracked display screen. Her ship had survived only because she'd ordered a silent drift maneuver and powered down almost everything, letting the Resolute play dead among the wreckage. Her bridge crew sat in tense silence, each of them nursing wounds or bandaged burns from the last strike they'd endured. "Are they buying it?" Lieutenant Grant Evans whispered from his console. Sarah's jaw tightened. The Imperium ships were fanning out, collecting data, sweeping up what was left of humanity's fleet. Her heart ached as she saw broken Terran hulls, comrades, friends, maybe even her brother's ship among them. "They think we're gone," Sarah said softly. "Good. That means we still have a chance." She turned to her surviving officers, her voice steady despite the heaviness in her chest. "Listen carefully. We can't run, not yet. If we fire engines now, they'll see us. But we're not finished. Not by a long shot." The bridge crew exchanged weary glances. They all knew what she meant. This was not a retreat. This was the start of something far worse for the Imperium. In orbit of Vega Prime, Kale watched as the last of the Terran wrecks were catalogued. A hollow pang settled in his chest. His people had crushed rebellions before, but never against a foe quite like this. Humans were unpredictable, inventive, and far too stubborn for their own good. "Order the fleet to move on Earth," Kale commanded. "We will take their homeworld quickly and decisively. No stragglers. No survivors." The Zevrok's engines flared as the massive warship aligned for its next jump. Back aboard the Resolute, Sarah gripped the armrest of her chair as she made her decision. "Evans, get me engineering. I want every last watt of power ready the second we light up." "You're not thinking of following them," Evans said, incredulous. "Oh, I'm following them," Sarah replied, her green eyes burning with a fierce intensity. "But we're not going in blind. We're going to call in every contingency, every buried failsafe the Terran Defense Command ever swore didn't exist. If we're going down, we're taking half their fleet with us." There was silence on the bridge for a long moment, not fear, but grim resolve settling over the surviving crew. "Yes, ma'am," Evans said finally, and the others nodded. Deep in the ship's core, long-dormant systems began to wake. Hours later, Kale's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light near Earth's orbit. What they found was not the soft, defenseless homeworld they had been promised. Earth's orbital defense grid glowed to life like a sleeping dragon opening its eyes. Massive railguns, concealed in the shadow of the moon, rotated into firing position. Stealth platforms uncloaked in synchronous precision, revealing a dozen Titan-class warships, ships Kale had not seen during the battle at Vega Prime. And at their head was a vessel that should not exist, the TDF Leviathan, humanity's rumored ghost ship, thought destroyed years ago in the Callisto incident. Its hull shimmered with strange, angular plating that no Imperium database recognized. Kale's blood chilled. "This is not possible," he whispered. But possible or not, the humans were here and they were waiting. On board the Leviathan, Sarah Whitlock stood on the command deck, newly transferred from the Resolute. The ship's systems hummed beneath her feet with an almost predatory energy. "Admiral Voran thinks he's walking into a victory parade," Sarah said, glancing at her crew. "Let's give him a funeral instead." Her XO, Commander Evans, cracked a thin smile. "Weapons hot?" Sarah nodded once. "Weapons hot." The Leviathan's massive rail cannons swiveled toward the Imperium fleet, and across Earth's orbital grid, hundreds of targeting solutions locked in. Kale Voran's victory celebration had lasted less than a day. The void over Earth ignited in a storm of light. Admiral Kale Voran had only seconds to process what he was seeing before the first salvo struck. A spear of hypervelocity slugs tore through the shields of an Imperium cruiser, ripping it in half before its crew even had time to scream. Another burst of railgun fire followed, then another, an unrelenting rain of tungsten and plasma from Earth's hidden defenses. Kale's command deck shook as the Zevrek's shields absorbed the first impacts. "Raise all countermeasures," Kale roared, snapping his gaze to his tactical officer. "I want every interceptor drone in the air. Return fire." But the Imperium was already on the back foot. The Titan-class Terran warships, black, angular, and bristling with weapons, surged forward like predators unleashed. Their weapons were unlike anything Kale had ever seen: beam cannons that sliced through shields as though they were mist, missile swarms that broke into dozens of smaller submunitions mid-flight, overwhelming point defense systems. "This isn't the fleet we fought at Vega Prime," Vreth growled, his usually calm voice tinged with panic. "No," Kale said grimly, "it isn't." On board the Leviathan, Captain Sarah Whitlock stood at the center of the chaos, her crew moving with razor-sharp precision. "Target the Zevrek," she ordered. "Main batteries 1 and 2 fire for effect." The Leviathan's rail cannons thundered, sending projectiles the size of small cars screaming through the void. They struck the Zevrek's forward shields, overloading them in a blinding flash of light. "Direct hit!" Evans shouted over the din of the bridge. "Their shields are buckling." "Good," Sarah said, her voice like steel. "Let's make the Admiral sweat." Her crew obeyed, unleashing salvo after salvo, pressing the attack without hesitation. For the first time since Vega Prime, the Imperium was bleeding. Panic rippled through Kale's fleet as reports flooded in: ship after ship lost, battle lines collapsing, human warships appearing from nowhere. "Admiral!" Vreth cried. "We are outgunned." "The Terrans, they planned this." Kale's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Imperium had crushed hundreds of worlds, put down dozens of rebellions, but none of them had been capable of this. "This was no rebellion," Kale said bitterly. "This was bait." Across the solar system, the Terran defense network lit up. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt came alive, disgorging gunships and frigates that had never been on the Imperium's intelligence maps. Automated drone fleets, dormant for years, were suddenly active, swarming toward the enemy like angry hornets. And above it all, the Leviathan loomed, the spearhead of Earth's vengeance. "Admiral Voran is pulling his fleet back," Evans reported with a grin. Sarah's expression hardened. "Not far enough. Cut off their retreat vector." Moments later, 3 Terran stealth destroyers uncloaked directly behind the Imperium fleet, forming a deadly crossfire trap. Kale realized, with a sinking feeling, that he was being herded. The battle raged for hours, the black of space lit by streaking missiles, exploding hulls, and the glow of burning plasma. Kale's forces fought with desperate valor, but the humans had seized the initiative. For every Terran ship destroyed, 2 Imperium cruisers went down. On the Zevrek, Kale's bridge was a storm of alarms. "Shields are failing," shouted the tactical officer. "Engineering decks 2 and 3 are gone. Maintain fire." Kale barked, even as sparks rained from ruptured conduits above him. "If we retreat now, the galaxy will smell weakness." But Vreth turned to him, his face grim. "If we don't retreat now, there will be no fleet left to defend the galaxy." Kale's golden eyes narrowed. Retreat was unthinkable, but annihilation was worse. "Signal the fleet," he said at last. "Begin phased withdrawal. Cover each other as you fall back." We will regroup beyond the asteroid belt. Vreth nodded, immediately transmitting the order. One by one, the Imperium ships began to jump out, vanishing into the void. On board the Leviathan, Sarah watched the enemy scatter. "They're running," Evans said, almost disbelieving. "Not running," Sarah corrected. "Regrouping. And when they come back, it'll be with twice as many guns." She turned to her crew, her expression grim but resolute. "This was just the first round. And we won, but we bled for it. Start recovery operations. I want every survivor from Vega Prime we can find, every damaged ship patched up. If they want a second war, we'll be ready." As the last Imperium vessel jumped out, Kale stood silently on the battered bridge of the Zevrik, staring at the Leviathan on the viewscreen. The human warship did not pursue. It simply hovered there, like a silent guardian daring him to come back. "They were never broken," Kale said at last, his voice quiet. "We have not defeated them. We have only awakened them." Vreth said nothing. There was nothing to say. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kale Voran felt something colder than fear, doubt. The sky over Earth was still burning when the transmissions began. From the Terran High Command, from hidden colonies, from human resistance cells across 100 star systems, the message was the same. The Imperium's victory was a lie. Humanity still fights. And across the galaxy, millions of oppressed species heard the broadcast and began to hope. 3 weeks after the Battle of Earth's orbit, the galaxy trembled once more. The Imperium had returned, just as Captain Sarah Whitlock predicted, and they had brought everything. Kale Voran's fleet now numbered twice its original strength, an armada so vast it stretched across the sky like a swarm of black wings. Dreadnoughts, carriers, and entire flotillas of escort craft surrounded the Zevrik, their formation perfect, their intent unmistakable: finish what had been started. On board the Leviathan, Sarah stood on the command deck, hands clasped behind her back as she watched the swarm of red enemy signatures filling her tactical screen. "They came faster than we thought," Evans said quietly. "I don't think we can hold them off with just what we have left." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "We're not holding them off. Not this time. This is where we break them." The bridge crew exchanged glances, grim, determined. "Order all defense platforms to power up," Sarah commanded. "And patch me through to the fleet." Seconds later, her face appeared on every Terran ship's screen. "This is Captain Sarah Whitlock, commanding the Leviathan. Today, we don't just fight for Earth, we fight for every colony they burned, every ship they shattered, every soul they thought they could erase from existence. Today, the Imperium learns what it means to face humanity's fury." Across the fleet, battle stations went to full alert. The air vibrated with the sound of charging railguns and missile bays cycling to readiness. On board the Zevrik, Kale Voran stood silently as he watched the human formation hold its ground. He could sense it: this would not be like Vega Prime, or even the battle over Earth. This would be the final measure of Terran resolve. "Admiral," Vreth said softly, "shall we initiate the strike order?" Kale hesitated, then nodded. "Begin the assault. Leave no survivors." The Imperium fleet surged forward. The opening salvos turned the void into a blinding maelstrom. Imperium beam cannons scythed across the dark, shredding several Terran frigates in the first minute. Earth's response was instantaneous. Railgun barrages hammered the leading cruisers, cracking shields and tearing through hulls. Sarah braced against the rumble as the Leviathan's main batteries fired again and again. "Enemy dreadnoughts are closing," Evans reported. "They're trying to box us in." "Then let's ruin their box," Sarah replied coolly. "Signal the asteroid belt stations. Execute Operation Black Dawn." A second later, the solar system itself seemed to awaken. From the asteroid belt, enormous objects began to move, asteroids secretly fitted with fusion drives and mass drivers. They accelerated silently at first, then faster, until they were hurtling toward the Imperium fleet at impossible speeds. Kale's eyes widened as the tactical display lit up with hundreds of incoming contacts. "Divert point defenses," he roared. "Destroy those projectiles." But there were too many. Massive chunks of rock slammed into Imperium ships, crushing them under their own momentum, tearing through shields like wet paper. Dozens of ships were ripped apart in moments, their explosions blooming like fireflowers across the stars.
"This is madness,"
Vreth shouted. "No," Kale said bitterly, gripping the rail as the Zevrak shook under another impact.
"This is human strategy."
Sarah's plan was working, but at a terrible cost.
"Section 3 is gone," Evans reported. "We've lost the Orion and the Kestrel."
Sarah's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch.
"Keep firing. Every second we hold them here is a second closer to ending this war."
The Leviathan's forward shields flared white as another dreadnought's beam smashed against them.
"Return fire," Sarah shouted.
The ship's massive plasma lances spat blinding light, striking the dreadnought amidships. The enemy vessel erupted in a silent fireball, breaking apart as its reactors went critical. Cheers erupted on the bridge, brief, fierce, but there was no time to celebrate. Hours dragged on, the battle grinding both sides down to embers. The solar system was littered with wreckage, glowing hull fragments tumbling like fiery snow. At last, Kale's fleet began to falter. "Admiral," Vreth said, his voice ragged, "our losses are catastrophic.
We cannot sustain this engagement."
Kale stared at the viewscreen, at the Leviathan, still burning like a spearhead in the void, refusing to break.
He could order another retreat.
He could save what remained of his fleet. But he saw something in that human defiance, something that would haunt him if he turned away. "No," Kale said finally. "Bring us alongside the Leviathan. If this war ends today, I will end it myself." On board the Leviathan, alarms blared as the Zevrak broke formation and charged.
"They're coming straight at us," Evans said.
"Then we meet them head-on," Sarah replied.
"Bring us about."
The two flagships closed the distance, exchanging fire at point-blank range. The Leviathan's railguns hammered the Zevrak's hull, the Zevrak's plasma lances seared across the Leviathan's armor. The void between them became a corridor of death. At last, Sarah saw her chance. "Target their core," she shouted.
"All guns, fire!"
The Leviathan unleashed everything. The final barrage smashed through the Zevrak's weakened shields and tore into its heart. Kale stood tall on his bridge as the deck split apart beneath him. For a moment, he locked eyes with the Leviathan on his screen and gave a single, solemn nod. Then the Zevrak exploded, the shockwave tearing through what remained of the Imperium formation.
Silence fell.
For a long time, no one spoke on the Leviathan's bridge. The enemy fleet was gone, it shattered, scattered, retreating into the darkness.
Evans exhaled slowly. "It's over."
Sarah stared at the empty void where the Zevrak had been. "No," she said quietly.
"It's not over. But today, we reminded the galaxy that humanity doesn't kneel."
Across the solar system, Terran beacons lit up, broadcasting a single message.
"The war is ours now."
And across 1,000 worlds, the oppressed heard Earth's call and rose.
Kale Voran's death became legend. The Battle of Sol became a warning.
And humanity, once thought a minor species on a backwater planet, became the spearpoint of a new age. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth's warships shattered the illusion of Imperium victory and lit the first fire of freedom.